Am I eligible for Social Security benefits if I've been divorced? Let's break it down on this episode of the Hawaii Retirement Show. All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Hawaii Retirement Show. On today's episode, we're talking divorced spouse Social Security benefits. And we've done a few episodes now on Social Security. This will probably be the last one. We've talked about how your Social Security can be reduced. We talked about surviving spouse benefits, spousal benefits. And today we're talking about divorced spouse benefits. And essentially what we're talking about is the same as the spousal benefit episodes, because that is what you're looking to claim, but it's just as that pertains to a divorced spouse. And like we have been doing, there's a flow chart that you can follow along with. You can go to hawaiiretirementshow.com and download that flow chart. It'll also be in the show notes. You can follow along on YouTube. And so to kick things off here with the divorced spouse Social Security benefits is the first question, and the first key to this whole scenario is you must have been married for 10 years. If you were married for 8 years or 9 years, then you do not qualify to claim the spousal benefit on your divorced spouse's record. Must be 10 years. Now, let's say you are divorced from 2 marriages and both lasted over 10 years. In that instance, then you can actually choose which divorced spouse's record to claim on, right? And you would most likely claim the higher benefit. I don't see why you would not claim the higher benefit. One interesting fact about that is, to the best of my knowledge, sometimes you get the question, well, they know that you're claiming on their benefit, right? There might be an instance where the spouse doesn't want the divorced spouse to know that they're claiming on their record, right? And from what I gather, the divorced spouse whose record you're claiming on does not know if you're claiming on their record. I don't know if they could find out, but they're not notified, is from what I understand. If anybody knows the answer to that, write me an email, aloha@hawaiiretirementshow.com, and we'll figure that out. But as far as I know, they're not notified. You just claim on the divorced spouse's record, and that's business between you and Social Security, not with the divorced spouse. Okay, so we got 10 years. That's the key here. If you remarry, you're not eligible for spousal benefits on your ex-spouse's record anymore, right? So you gotta be single. You can't be, if you're remarried, then you're now looking at spousal benefits on your current spouse's record. So you have to be single, divorced, for what we're talking about here. Next, moving along, you must both wait until you and the divorced spouse have reached age 62. Unless there's always this carve out with Social Security for disability, right? Where the rules definitely change whenever anybody is disabled. So if you or your ex-spouse is disabled, there's a different set of rules there. But for the most part, you must both wait until you and your divorced spouse have reached age 62. Not one, not the other, but both. So that's important to point out. And the divorced spouse benefit, like I said earlier, it's the same thing as the spousal benefit. It is the spousal benefit. I'm just calling it the divorced spousal benefit, but because it pertains to divorcees, but it's the spousal benefit, meaning that you have 2 options. You can claim the greater of 50% of your ex-spouse's benefit or 100% of your own benefit. So if 100% of your own benefit is greater than half of your ex-spouse's benefit, then you wouldn't want to claim on their record. You'd be losing money, right? It's only if half of your divorced spouse's record, their benefit, is greater than 100% of your benefit, then you'd really want to look into this and maybe claim on the divorced spouse's record. Nowadays with both spouses working, a lot of times you won't see this kind of huge disparity where, one spouse's benefit will be less than half of the other spouse's benefit. I think you see it mostly in instances where one spouse is a super high earner and the other spouse is, works part-time, helps with the kids and does other things. Then you'd probably see this disparity. But if both spouses are working full-time jobs, making just average money, then, you're not gonna see this disparity where you're going to want to claim a spousal benefit. Odds are, your benefit will be greater than half of your spouse's benefit. But this is something to keep in mind, and it can help out a lot of people. It doesn't pertain to everybody, for sure. And then, moving along, in the same way we talked about spousal benefits and how all the different ways, we did an episode on all the different ways in which Social Security benefits can be reduced. And within there, you have the earnings test, you have claiming early, amongst other things. And I suggest you go back and listen to that episode, Will My Social Security Benefits Be Reduced? Because all those things we talked about still apply to this scenario here. So, for instance, the most common one is if you or your ex-spouse claim their benefit early before their full retirement age, their FRA, then the benefits are reduced, right? If your ex-spouse claims it at 62, then your spousal benefit, that 50%, it won't be the maximum 50%. It'll be reduced because you're claiming on their record, and their record, they took their benefits early, so there is a reduction for that. And same is true for your own benefits, right? If you reduce your benefits by claiming early, then you're not going to get the full 50% of your spousal benefits because, again, like I suggest you go back and listen to the other episode because I don't want to get too deep into it, but the way the spousal benefit works is you don't just get 50% of your ex-spouse's benefit, you get your benefit and they top you up to, to be 50% of your ex-spouse's benefit. So, but if your part of the benefit is reduced, they don't increase the top up, you know what I mean? So you're going to get less than, in the end, you'll have less than 50% of your ex-spouse's benefit. Clear as mud. Hope this helps. A lot of people aren't aware of this sort of option for divorcees being able to, claim on their ex-spouse's record. Again, it only applies if, their own Social Security benefit is less than half of their ex-spouse's benefit. That's where it really comes into play. But it's good to know. Short episode here. This will kind of wrap it up for these Social Security ones we've been doing. We'll move on to something else next. And if there's anything in particular you'd like me to talk about on the show, email it over to aloha@hawaiiretirementshow.com, and we'll catch everyone on the next one.
The opinions and statements presented on this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Never make any investment or financial decisions based on information offered on this show without first consulting your financial, legal, or tax advisor. All economic and performance information mentioned on the show is historical in nature and is not indicative of any future results. All indices mentioned on this show are unmanaged and cannot be invested in directly. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Lastly, all opinions expressed by Jason Cutitta and any guests on the show are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of or are endorsed by ToBA Financial. For Jason Cutitta, investment advisory services are offered through ToBA Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Hawaii and in other jurisdictions where exempt from registration.